How's it going, everyone? In my last video, I asked you guys a thought experiment. I asked if there was a person who was born into a body that could not lift, but they knew everything there was to know about lifting, and then they were somehow transported into a body that could lift, would they learn something new after their first training session? Overwhelmingly, the answer was yes, and even though there was some pushback saying, well, he literally knows everything, by definition of knowing everything, you can make that argument. But if you look at the question itself, you'll realize it's impossible for him to know everything, since experience is also a form of knowledge, and not all knowledge is physical, found in a book, and things of that nature, right? So this question was done in response to a similar question posed by Jeff Nippard, which was, would you take lifting advice from someone who doesn't even lift? And I am very much in the middle, but I wanted to make sure that I kind of persuaded or made an attempt to persuade people who are on the side of thinking like, yes, I would definitely listen to someone who is only in the books and only in science and only in whatever, right? There is some amount of validity to what they do, their claims, and there's some usefulness in what they do, but it's not isolated there. It doesn't belong there. You should try to be a bit more in the middle, and you should try to find a source of information that is both credible, in line with, let's say, science and reality. And that is why I'm posing the other question today, or the other side of the question today, and that is, can people who clearly have more lifting experience than you be wrong? Your intuition is most likely yes. And that is because we often see people who are jacked, strong, big, who give advice that would only keep a person weak and small. The most important thing that I want to get across to you today is that credibility does not override validity. A man can have a master's, a PhD, he could be a CSCS certified trainer, he could be a CPT, he could be a bunch of different letters added to their name, and they can still be wrong. A person can have no letters attached to their name and be more right, or be even more wrong. The people who have these letters after the name, who have put themselves through education and things of that nature, they are less likely to be wrong. There is more reason to trust them, but there is no amount of reason that can be given to a person that makes them above skepticism. Science is the spirit of skepticism. The moment you start thinking that science knows everything, is the proof of everything, that's not science, that's now scientism, right? And it's important to realize that a valid argument is valid no matter who says it, and an invalid argument is invalid no matter who says it. This is a good reason as to say why a broken clock is right, I think, like at least once a day or twice a day, something of that nature. Or how I remember being put to me when I was in the military, even a squirrel can find a nut sometimes. Someone can bench 405 and they could be 250 and sub 10% body fat and still have absolutely no clue on how to get you those similar results. This is possible, and in the case of many mainstream YouTube channels, sometimes it's almost evidently plausible. We see many channels who, once we listen to them for just a little bit, we start to think to ourselves, why is anyone actually listening to this? And we just kind of move them to the side. Every now and then they have a golden tidbit of truth or useful information, but the overwhelming amount of their work is lackluster at best. And we, as viewers of content, myself included, should be skeptic and hold people accountable for their beliefs, their arguments, and we should be smart enough to notice any inconsistencies. And just because they have a huge following, just because they have a better physique, we shouldn't diminish our own thinking capacities just because of that. Obviously, there's a part of myself that is very attracted to the "do you even lift, bro" response. However, we have to acknowledge that that is, in fact, a fallacy. At least if that is the only piece of evidence. When it comes to giving yourself reason to believe something, right? You can have a series of other premises, and if one of them just happens to be, I lift more than you, I'm more and I'm very much in favor of that. But if that is their entire argument as to why they are supporting their own conclusions, that's when I start to have a problem. So, my advice to you is to look at these people's arguments and not only their awards, their achievements, their education. We have seen very many times people who have degrees, people who have won competitions, and they are still wrong. They are they ruin the credibility of, or they ruin the credibility that should be attached to those titles. So, for example, when a doctor says calories in, calories out doesn't work and it's all hormones, it's like, yeah, sure, but what do those hormones influence? Calories in, calories out, even if we're being generous to their claims about hormones, right? Or we see people who are, let's say, Mr. Olympias, or, world's strongest men, or advanced powerlifters, and they'll make claims that are very black and white, unnuanced, and their reasoning for that, well, I'm the strongest guy here, I'm the biggest guy here. That can be part of your reasoning, but if that is the sole crux of your argument, it is a very weak argument. And here is my challenge to people who kind of think that way. I hope you realize that you are undermining your own authority when you do that. When you are in a position where you are looked upon as being a role model, and that is how you kind of take it, you are saying dumb things and you are spreading these dumb ideas, you diminish your own accomplishments. And I'm not trying to make the claim that athletes and celebrities should be the smartest people in the world because people look up to them. In fact, I would rather just say stop looking up to these celebrities and people like that. And recognize that popularity is just, normie behavior and attractions. But what I am saying is that if you educated yourself, if you pushed yourself to achieve something great, and you then say all these dumb things that don't make any other sense, and you appeal to your own achievements and authority as if that is what got you there, you discredit what you've accomplished. And I think people like myself, people in the comment sections, people who get called mosquitoes, bugs, haters, things of that nature, there are definitely people in this world who hate for no reason, right?
Some guys, they just hate for no reason. Gabbies?
Yeah.
However, not everyone's like that. If you truly believe in your methods, your ideas, you should be able to defend them, and you shouldn't have to rely on these esoteric studies, big ass words, galaxy brain notions and things of that nature. They should be pretty evident by themselves. Well, from the future here, and I guess more to the point of this video in particular, because it's not more so going after the science bros, it's more so going after the gym bros. Not just relying on the fact, hey, I'm leaner than you, hey, I'm bigger than you, hey, I lift more than you. Like I said, that being a part of your argument is a really strong part of your argument, so long as you have everything else along with it. There's a lot of reason why we listen to guys like Jeff Nippard and Bald Omni Man, Sam Sheether, and many other, and Faz Lifts, very educated guys who are very well versed in science and things of that nature. But we listen to them because not only are they evidently strong with the science, but they're just evidently strong in general. They are very muscular, very jacked, very big, things of that nature. GVS, basement bodybuilding, a lot of these guys who are very much aware of the more book smart side of things. But we listen to them a lot because they also back it up with their actions, their experience, and things of that nature, right? The key part here is that is not all they ever say. How long or how much content could these guys possibly make if all they ever said was, well, this is what I do. I'm big, I'm strong, so this is what I do. And if you look at the content of these other people who are trying to appeal to that, the reason why they can keep making new content, hey, these 4 new exercises, hey, these 4 new training schemes or things of that nature, the reason they can keep doing that is because the justification for why they made those videos is always going to be the same. I'm big, you're not, so listen to me. How useful is that really? So, corrupt from the past, take it away. And something I want to get across to you guys, right? When it comes to these people who are very evidently more accomplished, more seasoned, more experienced, and things of that nature, they the ones who have horrible who have horrible ways to coach and build up other people. They want to rely on their authority because they know they can't rely on anything else. They're not that smart otherwise. And something that I want to remind these people and remind you is that exercise science is not rocket science. Exercise physiology is not the same as physics. Obviously, these more objective disciplines factor in and they play a huge role into the education of these people. And as a result, when they say dumb things, it only makes them look even worse because how do you go through a long ass program or a difficult program like that and come away that dumb? The problem here is when they try to appeal to their own authority, they're trying to make the claim that they somehow have access to information that is far and away from what we could access. And that's just not true. When it comes to their expertise and them defending their expertise, it's motivated by the observation that most experimental intuitions, critiques, or how people think of things are typically handled better by people who are educated in that field. So, for example, if something happens in space, you're better off asking a physicist or a astrophysicist what exactly does that mean or what could that mean rather than your random dude down the street. However, like I said, exercise science is not rocket science. Exercise physiology is not physics. In just the same way, you can't 100% trust the people who have only been in a book and have only been in the gym and kind of, whether it be by drugs or, I kind of hate this, but, genetics, that does happen every now and then where they are just genetic freaks and whatever they do does make them grow. Very rare, and it's very unlikely. It's more likely drugs. Or even better yet, they were doing things that are more in the common consensus of what actually works, and then they try to say, I'm more enlightened now, I'm more educated now, and I was wrong then. Fuck that. That's not it at all. In contrast to physics, physicists interact with an external objective reality. That is where their information comes from. Whereas exercise scientists, we operate on assumptions, biases, limited studies, we use proxies, presuppositions, and we are forced to regularly rely on studies done on populations that do not fully capture the essence of each individual. In exercise science, what works for me might not work for you. In physics, I do not care where you are in the world. When you drop an apple, gravity is the exact same. The speed of light is a constant. I'm not a physicist, but I'm just going off on some things that I think I know. And part of that is light is both a wave and a particle, things of that nature, right? But at no point does physics bend its rules for differently for you and then for some other person. And for that motherfucker who is gonna talk about quantum physics, chill out. We're talking about pure vanilla physics, all right? And any reliable data or advice that can be derived from a scientific study was first provided by people who actually lived it. So, you could say, well, that's a point in the right direction for people who are very clearly buff and very clearly in the gym, in the trenches, things of that nature, right? But if they then backtrack and say the complete opposite of what they did and said that's what makes you get gains, there's a problem there. So, you scientists who actually lived, stop undermining your own expertise in order to become more in line with your findings or anyone else's studies or trying to be more marketable or things of that nature. The spirit of science is inquiry and skepticism. Scientism asserts that science is the best and or only way to derive truth about the world or reality. But show me a scientific study that proves that. Try it. Do it. I'll wait. Because you probably can't. Scientism cannot prove itself by science. And what I want you to take away from this video, from this rant of mine, is that a person can be wrong no matter what. I call myself a power builder. I am very clearly wrong in many things. But it is our rational capacity our ability to observe, our ability to make arguments and things of that nature that is supreme. We have to not hold people above or hold things above this approach. We have to make sure that we can always be skeptic and rely on both knowledge and experience, but not be so hung up on either one. So hopefully somewhere in there you found an answer and or found a justification why I think you should be more so in the middle, trying to be, you know, not overwhelmed by science, but also not completely ignorant or discrediting of science, but also at the same time not just going to the juice head in the gym and thinking to yourself, oh, this guy's big, I should listen to him. Be a bit more nuanced. Find the common consensus of what works for most people. Have that be your starting point and experiment over time on yourself. Bodybuilding, strength training, it's by far the most important scientific experiment, and the only population in that experiment is you. So obviously do your research, try something out, form a hypothesis, conduct the experiment, which means commit yourself to your training program for a long enough period of time to actually get results, record the results, compare the results with other people, and then, you know, modify your experiment round by round and go things about that way. Exercise, you are an exercise scientist and you are testing all these things out, all this information out on yourself. And as a result, research is not proof from either side. It is just evidence to believe, evidence to try something. And it is up to you to actually make it, or not necessarily make it, but determine if it is worthwhile for you or not. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Carl King, StanStrength.com. If you are interested in coaching, you can hit the link in the description below or send me a message on Instagram at StanStrength. Thank you so much for watching. Always remember, do your best, or at least what you can. Keep trying hard and start where you stand.